When you first arrive in a major city, let's say Istanbul or Bangkok, you don't hear the quiet clinking of silverware.
Yeah.
Or you're hit by this wall of sound and smoke and this vibrant, organized chaos. It's the smell of sizzling skewers, of sauces, of grilled meats, that sensory assault, that loud chatter that is the true taste of the city.
It really is.
So today, we're kind of challenging that whole fine dining narrative, the idea that a city's culinary identity is, behind some velvet rope or on a white tablecloth.
Right.
Our deep dive is focused entirely on the street.
Yeah.
The sources we have really dig into why street food, not these fancy restaurants, is the living, breathing essence of a city's flavor. Okay, let's unpack this.
Welcome to the pavement. I love that. Our mission today is to really extract the insights that show how street food is the lifeblood of a city's gastronomic identity.
A lifeblood, that's a great way to put it.
Yeah, we're going past just appreciating a quick meal. We're looking at its economic power, its deep historical roots, and its role as well as the ultimate cultural equalizer.
So what are we covering specifically?
We'll look at how street vendors are the undisputed architects of local flavor. We'll trace their evolution from just carts for survival to these hubs of culinary innovation. And then for the learner out there, we'll zoom way in on one beloved dessert to understand the surprising science behind a perfect street treat.
I love that. So let's start with this idea of architects of flavor. When you look at haute cuisine, you're getting a very curated, often very expensive slice of a culture.
A manicured slice.
Yeah, exactly. But street food is raw. It's unfiltered. And it's just fundamentally accessible. If you want the authentic soul of a cuisine, what millions of locals actually eat every single day, you have to go to the streets.
It's where the city eats.
Yeah. And the sources bring this to life. Take Bangkok. I mean, sure, its high-end dining scene is world-class.
Right.
But the real pulse of Thai food culture, that's in the night markets.
Absolutely. The pavement stalls.
That's where you get the steaming pad thai, the green curry, those grilled meat skewers, often cooked on a cart that's no bigger than a desk.
And that dish, made right there on the street, it tells a story that fine dining just can't. Look at Mexico City. You could spend a fortune on some modernist Mexican dish. Or
you could have a taco al pastor.
Exactly. The humble taco al pastor captures the city's essence way more honestly.
So tell us a bit more about the al pastor. It looks simple, but it's this amazing fusion, right?
It's a brilliant example. Yeah. That vertical spit, the trompo of marinated pork, that was actually introduced by Lebanese immigrants.
No way. From shawarma.
Precisely. They brought their shawarma technique in the early 20th century, but the Mexican vendors adapted it. They swapped lamb for pork and seasoned it with local chiles like achiote and guajillo. That history, that blend of cultures from migration and necessity, that's what street food gives you.
It's history you can eat.
No.
And it's not just the food, it's the whole experience. It's a sensory explosion. And because it's so affordable, it's a cultural passport for everyone.
Yeah, regardless of their budget. And we have to talk about the sheer scale of this. It's not a niche thing.
Right.
In these big culinary hubs, the number of street food options it dwarfs the number of traditional restaurants.
By how much are we talking?
The research points to cities like Bangkok, Istanbul, Mumbai, Hanoi. We're talking tens of thousands of vendors. This isn't a novelty. It's an entire economic and culinary ecosystem.
Wow.
And that huge diversity reflects this rich tapestry of cultures and flavors that really define a city. You could, travel the world just by walking down one long street in Hanoi.
So let's trace that history. What's fascinating here is that street food didn't start as a creative choice. It began out of ancient necessity.
Exactly. This wasn't a lifestyle choice. It was an economic solution for crowded cities.
So how far back are we talking?
Well, if we look back, in ancient Rome, you had vendors selling bread and porridge to the masses, the workers who didn't even have kitchens. And in China, way back in the Song Dynasty, noodle carts were an absolute staple of urban life. They fed a growing population quickly and cheaply.
So these carts, they weren't just fast food. They became what our sources call culinary crucibles. What I find interesting is how quickly they started to specialize, They take simple ideas and transform them with local spices, adapting to whatever they had around them.
And that constant adaptation is what drives the innovation.
Right. Vendors have to use simple, affordable ingredients, but they create these incredibly complex flavors. The research points to pad thai. You take rice noodles, tamarind, fish sauce, peanuts, and you get this perfect balance of savory and sweet that's cheap to make and everyone loves.
And the banh mi sandwich in Vietnam might be the ultimate example of this evolution. It takes the French baguette, right? a leftover from colonial history.
A literal remnant of colonialism.
Exactly. And it merges it perfectly with Vietnamese pickled vegetables and cilantro. Street food is so dynamic because it's forced to absorb these cultural accidents on the fly.
I found the notes on copycat culture just fascinating. Because these vendors are all working right next to each other, the pressure to improve or even just steal a good idea is so intense.
It's immediate.
It means trends are born and evolve at lightning speed. You could almost argue the street is the fastest test kitchen on earth.
That's a perfect way to put it. There's a constant, immediate feedback loop from the customer. If one vendor adds a better chili oil, everyone sees the longer line.
And they adapt immediately.
That spontaneous, competitive environment just ensures that flavors are always being refined. There's no slow, institutional process like in a restaurant.
Okay, let's shift gears a bit. Let's talk about the economic reality here, moving from the menu to the bottom line.
Right, because street food is so much more than just a meal. It's a foundational part of the informal economy in so many countries.
So millions of people rely on this.
Millions. For many families, that cart isn't just a job. It represents the main path to economic mobility, to financial independence.
That makes perfect sense. But if it's so vital, what do the sources say about governments trying to regulate it? Or in some cities, even shut these vendors down? Doesn't that risk destabilizing the very families who rely on this?
That's a crucial question, and the research shows this constant tension. On one hand, you have governments citing, legitimate concerns about hygiene, traffic.
For sure, public order.
Right. But heavy-handed regulations often ignore the human cost. When you displace vendors, the entire local ecosystem suffers because there's this symbiotic relationship there. Vendors work with local markets, they support farmers, suppliers.
There's a whole chain.
It's a whole chain.
Yeah.
Regulation has to be balanced, it needs to support the community, not crush it.
Okay, here's where it gets really interesting for me. Street food, as the great social equalizer. It's one of the few places in a city where social and economic barriers just drop. They seem to vanish.
They really do.
You can have an investment banker in a $3,000 suit grabbing lunch right next to a construction worker and a family of tourists. Everyone is united by that same delicious, affordable meal.
Sharing the same space, the same flavor. And that flavor is so often a container for history. Every dish tells a story.
How so?
Well, think about pho in Vietnam. It's not just broth. It reflects the country's agricultural roots, the importance of beef after the French colonial era, even the regional differences between the North and South.
Or chaat in India. It's like chaos in a bowl, right? It just showcases that love for bold, layered flavors and textures. It reflects the vibrancy of the market itself.
And these vendors are doing something else that's incredibly important. They are the guardians of tradition.
What do you mean by that?
In a world where, global fast food chains are everywhere, street vendors are often the last keepers of endangered recipes.
Wow.
They keep these obscure, labor-intensive regional dishes alive, dishes that would just never survive the high rents and standardization of a formal restaurant. They're ensuring future generations can taste traditions that are sometimes hundreds of years old.
That's amazing. Okay, so we've talked about the big picture, the economy, the culture. Now let's zoom way in and use one perfect street food, mango and sticky rice, to understand the microscopic mastery behind it all.
I love this example.
That iconic Thai dessert. Sweet mango, creamy coconut milk, and that specific signature sticky rice. It's so simple. But if you've ever tried to make it at home with, say, regular basmati rice,
it's a disaster.
A total failure. It becomes coconut soup with rice floating in it.
Yeah.
So why? What makes that glutinous rice so fundamentally different?
Okay, so this is a great point to get a little technical. The key difference between glutinous or sticky rice and regular rice like jasmine. It all comes down to the molecular structure of the starch inside the grain.
Okay.
Specifically, it's the ratio of two starches, amylopectin and amylose.
Amylopectin and amylose.
Right, and this is the critical part. Glutinous rice has a very high amylopectin content and a very low amylose content. Amylopectin is this highly branched molecule that absorbs water really well, creating that cohesive, sticky, almost glue-like texture when you heat it.
So it literally holds itself together.
Exactly. When it's cooked, it becomes soft and cohesive. It's perfect for molding, or in this case, for absorbing that coconut sauce without just turning to mush.
And regular rice is the opposite.
Pretty much. Regular rice, like basmati, has much more of the other starch amylose. That's a more linear structure, and it resists clumping. It keeps the grains separate and distinct.
Which is perfect for a pilaf,
But useless for a sticky dessert. You can even see the difference. Sticky rice grains are shorter, rounder, more opaque. Regular rice is longer and more translucent. That opacity is literally the different starch composition.
and we should probably clarify the name. Glutinous rice.
Yes, we absolutely have to. The term glutinous comes from the word for glue. It refers only to the sticky, glue-like texture. It has nothing to do with the protein gluten.
So to be perfectly clear,
Glutinous rice is 100% gluten-free. It's totally safe for anyone with sensitivities.
it's just wild how one tiny chemical difference completely dictates the final dish. You can't cheat the science. You need the right ingredient for that authentic street food experience.
You really do. And despite its cultural and economic importance, street food still faces these huge hurdles. A lack of infrastructure, regulatory challenges that push vendors out of central areas.
So what's the future look like?
Well, the tide seems to be turning. We're seeing growing awareness both locally and internationally. Organizations and even governments are starting to invest in training programs, better hygiene standards.
To secure its future.
Exactly. To make sure it remains a vital part of the city, not just a footnote.
And it's still evolving, right? Street food is the engine for global fusion on the go. As cities get more diverse, the innovation just speeds up.
Oh, absolutely. We're seeing it everywhere.
Yeah.
Korean, Mexican fusion tacos, sushi burritos. This constant blending ensures that street food stays the most dynamic part of the culinary world.
So the ultimate takeaway here is pretty clear. If you really want to experience the flavor and the pulse of a city, you have to bypass the formal restaurants and just head to the streets.
It offers an authentic, raw taste of a place that fine dining just can't replicate.
It really can't.
And if we connect this to the bigger picture, the next time you see a street vendor, whether it's in your hometown or a foreign city, don't just see a quick meal.
See the story.
See the story. Consider the centuries of necessity, the immigrant journey, the local economic engine all packed into that one bite, and ask yourself, what specific history is this food telling me about the city I'm in right now? What part of its soul am I tasting?
That is a powerful note to leave everyone with, and we hope you enjoyed this deep dive into, well, the true heart of global cuisine.
If you enjoyed this deep dive, you can find more analysis and transcripts on our blog, A Bus on a Dusty Road. We would love to have you be part of our community, so sign up for our newsletter to keep up to date.
And you can listen to our podcast. It's called Dusty Roads on all the major podcast platforms.
Also, be sure to subscribe to our A Bus on a Dusty Road YouTube channel for some great videos and information on travel, life as a global citizen, and, exploring all these social and cultural issues. Thanks for listening.